a news program from a Native perspective. Whether it's a flagpole raising or whether it's an elders conference, if it's important to the people and I make a story out of it, this is the most exciting, wonderful, fun time of my life. Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green.
There's a heartbeat louder than thunder. Revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care?
Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska, Native News and Native Information. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Canada. Nice to have you with us. I love the emails that we get every single week from you. Hello to our good friends across America. If you don't know it, Heartbeat Alaska is aired on reservations across the continent. We welcome you, Navajo Nation. We welcome you, Passamaquoddy Tribe. We welcome all others. Hello, Alaska. Nice to have you with us. And I'm especially glad that you're with us today. And the reason is our program covers one of the most important subjects ever, fetal alcohol syndrome. So if you're a young couple getting ready to get married and planning on having children, please watch this program. If you're elders, watch this program to pass the information on to the youth. If you're a young man that's been partying lately, you might want to sit down and take note. Fetal alcohol syndrome, a disorder that's 100% preventable, coming up right after this.
We at Jeannie Green Productions count on Reliance Tax Accountants because accounting is what they do. They've recently moved to 516 East Fireweed Lane in Anchorage. Reliance has been in business since 1981.
Glad to see you.
So only the location is new. Come by and talk with lifelong Alaskan Kathy Riley. With 21 years helping individuals and businesses with their tax accounting needs, Reliance Tax Accounting has the experience to make a difference to your bottom line. Call 561-0998 and start counting on the pros at Reliance Tax Accounting.
Aviation. It's knowing how to make distances seem shorter. The art of buying you time. The business of bringing people together. And another reason to look up. Era Aviation. This is our sky.
Peter Pletnikoff loves basketball. He hopes one day he'll make the varsity team, but it'll be a hard road. But he's come a long way already. Peter was born into a world without hope. His mom drank heavily during her pregnancy. When Peter was born, the doctors knew he was in bad shape. One even said he would be vegetative. Peter's mother was faced with horrible decisions. And in the end, it took all she had to walk out of that hospital without her newborn son. There was a scramble to find a home for Peter. He was lost in an unforgiving world. He needed a safe harbor, a place to be saved. But who would want to take on a baby with so much going against him?
Someone at the hospital knew Judy and Bob and called them and said, would they want to take a child? And looking into it, basically, they were told nobody else. There was no other family for this child. And as Judy says, Bob's response was, every child needs a family.
We adopted him right out of the hospital the day he was born.
Judy and Bob Pletnikoff brought Peter into their home as an infant and never looked back. It wasn't easy. When a mother drinks, the alcohol damages whatever part of the fetus is developing the fastest at that time. Drinking early in the pregnancy caused more physical deformation, while drinking later in the pregnancy affects brain development more.
Fetal alcohol syndrome, which is only acquired if a child is exposed to heavy alcohol during the first trimester of life, because that's when the physical facial features can be damaged. But a child who is exposed to, who does not have those facial features, could be just as heavily impacted or more heavily impacted by prenatal exposure in the third or second trimester. So those children and those individuals carry a hidden disability. They don't appear different, but their brains and their nervous system are very affected and very different.
Nancy Wells works for the Kodiak Area Native Association and deals with many of the FAS cases on the island.
This is what the teachers got, was a set of the books, trying differently.
Recently, the state sent grants out to Kodiak and 8 other communities around the state. The money helps people like Nancy set up programs in their communities to provide FAS services and education. These bags were packed with educational material and handed out to teachers on the island. This is the first of a 2-pronged approach to dealing with fetal alcohol syndrome. Prevention.
It is 100% preventable.
Marian Estelle is the wellness coordinator for Rural Cap, a group that tries to help natives succeed and be prosperous without having to leave their villages. She knows that the time for a couple to stop drinking is before she's pregnant.
Women will actually say something like, oh, the minute I found out I was pregnant, I quit drinking. Or as soon as that pregnancy test came back positive, I didn't drink anymore. Well, that's often 12 weeks. And there are very important development happening at 5 weeks, 6, 7 weeks. And the earliest you can really confirm a pregnancy is 6 weeks. So the brain and spine are already formed by then.
Rural Cap has produced a 4-poster series that helps people understand what alcohol can do to a fetus. Up until just a few years ago, doctors used to recommend that a pregnant woman have a beer or a glass of wine to help her relax. New research found this is not okay. Smaller amounts of alcohol still have effects on an unborn child. These lesser cases are referred to as FAE, or fetal alcohol affected.
And then there are children who do not have the physical deformities on their face. And the ones who without the physical deformities, they have brain injury or brain damage. Because
Bethel,
when-
Alaska is another community that is using the new state grants to stop FAS. We sat in on a team meeting where representatives from villages in the Yukon-Kuskokwim region learned the latest research on FAS.
Work with children who are different that way.
Ardyce Turner is a health educator that specializes in FAS. She knows it takes both the father and the mother to prevent the new baby from alcohol damage.
There has been studies shown that even if a pregnant woman is not drinking and the man has been drinking, even at conception, the man, if he is drinking, he can cause damage to his sperm count. It affects his ability to be a father.
With the new state grant, Ardyce was able to send out training materials to over 200 people so far. She's working to train people in 57 villages in the region to help with FAS. These people will be able to help parents and teachers deal with their affected children.
And one of the things that we started here in Bethel is a parent support group, and that's exactly, we try to share information on what kind of intervention, discipline strategies, or even parenting styles. If you need help out there, we can come out as a diagnostic team, or even myself in this position, I could come out and help you folks start a parent support group for families who have children with alcohol-related birth defects. But one of the most important things is the reason why we send it out to community wellness counselors is because they are certified and they have skills on how to provide family counseling, which is very important that we try to work together with the other service providers in the villages to connect.
The idea is to empower them to live up to their full potential. This is the second part of dealing with FAS, helping affected individuals. When Judy and Bob first started with Peter, there was no FAS team on Kodiak Island. Judy took Peter to see Diane Molden, an expert from the lower 48 that visited Kodiak a few years back to get help and strategies and to find out how Peter's brain worked differently from most people's. They wanted to know how to help Peter reach his full potential.
And that was really helpful. She gave a lot of information from other people who have fetal alcohol syndrome who described how it is. It sort of changed the way our approach at the time, well, I guess we didn't really have an approach, but it gave us a better idea how to deal with it. And they have materials, like I said, for the teachers, and they also had materials for Peter to help us explain to him what was different about him so he could be, more accepting of that.
The idea of the Compass Project on Kodiak Island is to have doctors, educators, and social workers on the island itself ready to help diagnose individuals with FAS and come up with strategies to help. The defects that alcohol produces in unborn children can never be reversed, and each victim is different. Each victim needs their own unique treatment plan. A family will need support and planning for a lifetime. Judy and Bob had to find their way through a maze of doctors and others during Peter's early childhood.
All he wanted to do was be asleep. I think we even had to squeeze the milk into his mouth because he didn't want to eat, he didn't want to be awake, he didn't really want to do anything. His first year or two, there were a lot of medical interventions. His eyes, teeth, his heart, he had problems with, but that's all taken care of now.
Peter had problems. That's why one component of the FAS team will be parent navigators.
A parent navigator is your link between the parents of the child and the medical team. It's someone that the parents of an FAS, FAE child can lean on to get information, to go to doctor's appointments with.
Charlene Smith has gone through special training to be a parent navigator on Kodiak Island.
It's very complicated and it's a lifelong thing. It's not something that's going to end tomorrow or the next day. It's a lifelong thing that they're going to have to deal with. And at different stages throughout the child's life, they're doing different things, and that can change from day to day to week, and it's nice to have a friend and someone to help you along.
This kind of community-based help is also catching on in South Central Alaska.
I called over there and left the FYS the number, and so they were going to coordinate it.
Leon Birdtail is the Alcohol and Drug Program Coordinator for Chugachmute, a branch of Chugach Natives Corporation. Leon has dealt with drug and alcohol addiction for a long time and knows that the real answers to the tragedy of FAS can't come from outside.
We know that the most effective treatment comes from within our own communities. In the past, we've been taught to always look outside our communities for an answer, but it has never worked. That is why I feel that is why we are we are battling alcohol and drug addictions in our communities. So I know that each community has their own solutions. So in order to develop effective programs, we got to look in the community to get those solutions, to develop them so we can have healthy families, so we can have healthy generations.
Though the new state grants will only last a few years, the idea is to lay the groundwork that will last for generations. The goal is to make programs fit. Leon is building on his own firsthand experience to find programs that will work with Native values.
I'm a recovering person. I have 18 years of recovery in chemical, from alcohol, and just taking my knowledge of recovery and also the knowledge I accumulated through education and also from learning from other people and putting it together and that stuff. And it just isn't me, it's happening all over in Indian communities and tribal communities, is that they're looking at their own values and their own culture to help heal the families and the community.
Heartbeat Alaska.
Hi, I'm Martha Keegan, and welcome to an Island Suite.
Heartbeat Alaska wishes to thank Martha and the whole Keegan family.
We'd like you to make this your home away from home.
She made sure we were very comfortable during our stay on Kodiak.
I like meeting the people that come through, and I love showing people around.
With a full kitchen and laundry facilities in the room, staying in an Island Suite can save you time and money. And the complimentary coffee's not bad either. An Island Suite, your home away from home.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Bristol Environmental and Engineering Services, serving Alaska since 1994, a subsidiary of Bristol Bay Native Corporation.
Hi, I'm Mark from Scan Home, and we are proud to sponsor Heartbeat Alaska.
Scan Home, serving all of Alaska's home and office furnishing needs. Thank you, Scan Home, for making Heartbeat Alaska possible.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska.
By the Nature Conservancy of Alaska, working with Alaska's rural communities to conserve and protect our natural heritage.
Peter began his life as a little boy with no hope. Now he's a third grader with eyes focused straight into the future and his heart filled with dreams. Peter dreams of playing basketball on the varsity team, of becoming a barber, maybe even becoming a pilot. Peter's story shows us what can be done with a great network of support and lots of work.
The help we have provided has been educational material, but his family's done all the work. His family and his teachers, he's in a wonderful, supportive environment at school.
We have a resource here where we can go get things for teachers to read. And we do usually bring them, the year before they get Peter, we'll bring them some things to read, and so they know what techniques to use with Peter in the classroom that work, and what things are behavioral, and usually they aren't with Peter, and what things are just part of the whole syndrome. For example, attention span or staying on a task, those are real challenging for Peter. Sitting still for a long time is hard for him. So the teachers learn hopefully from the literature that we give them in the workshops that they go to, ways to deal with that and to help Peter.
All of Peter's teachers have been willing to go the extra mile to get him learning. With help from Nancy's office, Judy was able to provide information to all of his teachers to help them teach Peter in a way he could understand.
Peter is very energetic, very exciting to be around. He is very, puts forth a lot of effort and cares about his schoolwork. He's nice to have in class. He's a joy to have in class.
One of the strategies that his first grade teacher, who's excellent, incorporated was realizing that Peter could not sit still for an extended period of time and do seat work. It just wasn't possible. So what she did, she would give him partial assignments. So if the kids were doing seat work in the class, say it was math, for instance, she would mark that how far he would have to go on his math sheet. So maybe it'd be the first row of problems, and she'd put a check. And when he got to that check, he was required to get up and go find her in the classroom, because she would be circulating around the children. Not raise his hand or anything, but it was his responsibility at that point. Get up, get out of his seat, and walk over to her and show her what he'd done, and then she would mark what he would have to do next. So what it was doing was acknowledging that he had to get up and move. But he was doing his work, he was complying, because the getting up and out of his seat and moving was actually doing something that was on task. It was something he was supposed to do. So it was a build on success.
Peter's desk is right up front, and that's no accident.
Peter sits up front so that I can talk to him and make sure he's on task and he's followed directions, and it's easier to make sure that he's following directions.
That's how far you got in your book? What page are you on?
Judy lent us a helping hand by asking Peter some questions for us.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
What's your favorite subject?
Math, because it's fun and we get to do these all kind of problems.
Oh, is it hard?
No.
Is school hard?
Yeah.
Is school hard? Do you think you work pretty hard at school?
Yes.
You have lots of homework?
Yeah.
And how do you get that done?
By my brother helping me.
In the range of the class and the continuum and what he can do, what I do with him, he does well. I think his brother at home reinforces what's done in the class, and that's really helpful.
Peter's older brother tutors him after school every day. As a matter of fact, it's his job. Judy and Bob pay him $5 a day to give Peter the kind of one-on-one teaching that he needs.
Okay.
This is just the kind of help that children with FAS need to flourish. It's very easy for them to fall through the cracks. One expert we talked with estimated that half the kids in the McLaughlin Youth Center in Anchorage were exposed to fetal alcohol. As FAS kids mature, it's easy for them to get more and more frustrated with the world, easy for them to make poor choices, and easy for them to continue the cycle of alcohol abuse that leads to more victims of FAS being brought into this world.
We know that one of the highest risks for a child to be born with fetal alcohol exposure is to have a mother who was fetal alcohol exposed.
One of the most important ways to break the cycle is to talk about FAS. The fear and shame of talking about FAS needs to be broken down. We need to do it for the children's sake. It was one of the greatest challenges Judy and Bob had to face.
He's always known he's adopted, although we sort of forget it, and nobody really thinks about it very much. And then I went and borrowed this video of, I don't remember the name of it, but it was about this storyteller's there, and he's with all these kids, and most of the kids in the listening audience with the storyteller all have fetal alcohol syndrome, and they were telling this story, and then he sort of started to recognize some of the symptoms that they were talking about. The eyes, he has vision problems and other things he recognized, and he said, "Mom, do you think I have that?" And I told him, "Yeah, I think you probably do." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure you have that. We took you to the doctor and we know you have that fetal alcohol syndrome." And he said, "Oh," and that was about it. So then we rewound the tape and looked at all the kids in the tape that had it, and they all looked pretty cool and they looked okay, and he thought they looked all right, so he decided it was probably okay.
Oh, na, hey, na, na, oh, na. Peter found his safe harbor on this rocky island. He dreams one day of being on the varsity basketball team, of being a barber, or even a pilot. None of these goals will be easy, but when you look back at how hopeless his case was before he came to Kodiak, and how far he's come since he's arrived here, you understand just why Peter is such a hopeful boy.
Oh, my ultimate vision is to have no more FAS children. My short-term goal is to have the parents that do have children with FAS, to let them know that we're out here and that we can help.
The goal of the Compass Project is to help parents and victims of FAS to find safe harbor and connect with people who can help them for the rest of their lives. The dream of the Compass Project is to eliminate fetal alcohol syndrome, the enemy that can be totally prevented. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this very important segment of Heartbeat Alaska. This is actually part 1. In a few short months, you'll be seeing part 2 of fetal alcohol syndrome, a 100% preventable disorder. And I'd like to thank the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you, State of Alaska, and Diane Worley for making this program possible. I'm Jeannie Green. Join us next week for more Native news and Native information. Until then, God bless you. We'll see you then. Oh, na, hey, na, na. Oh, na, hey, oh, na, hey, na, hey, na. Oh, na, oh, no. Oh, na, hey, hey, na, hey, oh, no. Hey, na, hey, na, oh, na, hey, hey, na, oh, na, hey,